Hello again. This is my review of the past week, which would be March 14th through March 21st through March 25th. It's flying by, it really is. And you can see that my pictures about the idea of trench warfare, and we talked about World War One this week. But before we get to that, I have to finish up imperialism. Monday and Tuesday were extensions. I decided to kind of extend this unit. I did not feel that I had enough time to really go over China and Japan as well as I'd hoped, and so I extended this unit a little bit, and thus cut some time out of World War One, which I'll come to in a little bit. But the review day that I did on Monday, I decided to give the kids a review day because that's what they were clamoring for. That's what they wanted, and so I gave them this review day in hopes that they would settle down and do well. But I found that the review was too much of me. We did a Jeopardy game and we did a risk game, and it was really based on what I was giving them and not necessarily what they should be doing. And so I found myself very tired after that day. And so when I go forward looking at review days and that idea of doing a review in class, particularly at the high school level, it's got to be student driven. It cannot be driven by me personally. Tuesday was the test day, and I thought the test overall went well. I think the average for all classes was around an 82. Fifth period is always a little lower, but they did pretty well on this one comparatively to the last one. That might be because I gave them a different form than I gave their other classes and I gave to them last time. I'm going to be a hard tester. That's kind of officially been put in there that I'm going to be a hard tester, but at the same point, everything that was put into that test, with the exception of maybe 3 questions, was something that they had to at some point have taken notes on or something that they read about in class. There was nothing in there that was arbitrarily through homework, found in homework, and so it's a hard test, but it's nothing that they haven't covered already. Um, Wednesday, I did a frame routine, and I found it very useful for kids to really organize what they were thinking about. And we were talking about the main causes: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism of World War One. And so we did that, and we completed a frame routine based on that. And then we proceeded to watch a video on Wilhelm II for the rest of class. As kind of a way to help them understand who Wilhelm II was, because he's not really covered that much in their book. In fact, because this unit was so short, I did World War One in 3 days, and I'm adding Russian Revolution to that unit, so it'll be a total of 5 days total, which is kind of absurd for something like that. But they don't need. The standards tell me that they need to know nothing about the actual war itself, and only need to know the causes and the effects, which is almost sad. But I wanted to get to World War II and the ability to, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that at a later date, of them teaching World War II, because it's something that almost everyone is interested in. But their homework for this unit was, in fact, a timeline. They had to read the chapter and create a timeline based on the events that I gave them and give me a short description of each event. And I got those back today, and I'll come to those next week. But overall, they look pretty good. Fifth period once again doesn't do homework, and so being almost trapped into this homework society that is the social studies classroom, at least this classroom that I'm in terms of trying to get through everything they need to get through, while also giving them a good scope of what actually happened, even if it's not what they need to know for the SOLs, becomes tedious. It really does. I'm feeling the standards rush, and I put that down. I feel the coverage rush, that I'm covering something, I'm not really going in depth on it, and I'm feeling that when it comes to World War One, particularly. And I'm excited about the interwar period, being able to spend a good 8 days on that, and then spending another 8 days on World War Two. I'm excited about what's going to happen with that. Thursday was, I think, up to that point, was the best lesson that I've given all year. I really do. And the goal of that was, it was a Prezi, and it was about the technologies used in World War One, kind of a way to draw them into the war and draw them into, maybe if we couldn't talk about the specific battles, but we could talk about all the new technology that's coming in because of the Industrial Revolution that leads to the massive warfare that is in World War Two that they do need to know about. And so students completed a technology grid, which was a series of questions based on a PowerPoint or a Prezi that on different technologies, and they weren't in order, and all the questions weren't directly answered, and they had to think about it. And I really liked this, and I looked around, and most kids had something in everything, every single box, and I would say maybe half of them were directly in the Prezi, and that they had to synthesize the information for themselves. And I thought that that went really well. And the second half of class, they were doing image analysis, which I'm finding more and more that image analysis and significance cards and stuff like that take a lot of time. It took 20 minutes for students to get through 5 images tops. And I had 18 there for them, so it was obviously, and I was looking for a range of 6 to 9 is what I was looking for. But I really thought that it was a good lesson. I felt really confident about it as we were going through it. And the final day, Friday, we did a role play on the Treaty of Versailles. It was kind of very similar to a cooperative learning activity that we had done the night before, kind of as a group. And it went well in most classes except for 5th period, and that might also be because of the very small size. We have a lot of kids that are out currently with various issues, and it's been an issue in that class to really have consistency, and also they don't work well together sometimes, and smaller groups work better for that class period. And so having to throw out Orlando, one of the big four, the Italian representative of the big four, kind of threw off the banter that was supposed to happen. But I thought it went really well. I had a group that spoke entirely in accent when they were doing it, which I thought was genius and really funny. But one thing that I did, and this was a suggestion from Miss Luck, was that I would really focus on the casualties before we even talked about the idea that Germany would accept guilt, and Germany would have to pay reparations, and their military would be restricted. I would share the casualties, and the fact that 16 million people died, and almost half of those were civilians, really hit home. And particularly the idea that the Ottoman Empire lost 14% of its total population, really hit home for some people. But overall, I mean, I thought this last week flew by. It was the quickest week that I've had so far, bar none. And it's going to be interesting to see how this goes on. I feel like I'm finally getting my feet under me. I'm feeling like I finally have a chance to breathe, maybe get working on my portfolio, maybe a little bit, but also kind of finalize some stuff looking into the future. I'm already working on this these projects and these presentations that students are going to do about World War II, where they're going to teach it. But I'm finally getting the ability to do that, to do a little bit of unit planning in that, but to really allow students to do what they do best, and that is to discover. So thank you guys. I appreciate your time. Hopefully the audio in this is good. I will try to turn it up if I can. It's always iffy with these computers. But thank you again for your time, and I will see you next week.